Welcome to Comic and Screen. I am Sam Otten, and I'm joined today by my guest, Jason Book from houseofjb.blogspot.ca. Jason, thanks for being here.
Hey, no problem, Sam. Always a pleasure.
Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Fox series Gotham, which is actually premiering just around the corner on September 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's coming very soon. We're both getting excited about it, so we thought we would just talk about it here. Jason, what is it that you're excited about from the show? What do you think looks good from what you've seen so far?
I think the villains that they're going to get right, like, kind of looks like the Penguin. Looks like they're going to do a really good job with that because that's always been a character that sometimes isn't very interesting in the comics. So I think that's a cool twist on it. I want to see more about the Riddler and stuff like that. I like the idea of telling the story kind of in between what we haven't seen before. But as long as they're not treading what we've read and seen before, I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff.
Right. I think it's good that you started with Penguin because, man, from what I've seen, I mean, the little clips or the interviews with the actor even for the Penguin, it seems like they're really taking this character into some really interesting places, and it seems like he, from what I can tell, is going to really do a great job with this character. And I agree with you. In the comics, sometimes Penguin is kind of like a two-dimensional villain, and some of the other villains are more interesting, a little bit deeper. But it seems like they're really going to do some cool things with him here. I'm hoping that they really do come through on that.
Yeah, me too. I think it's got promise for sure.
Yeah, they said it started out. The pitch was initially the story of James Gordon as kind of a young cop in Gotham, and that the Gotham would just be a very interesting setting, the city. But now they've expanded it to be kind of these origin stories of the villains. So I'm excited to see, younger versions of the villains. I'm hoping that they don't overdo it. Like, I hope they don't try to pack too many in or go too far too fast with them.
Yeah,
For
for
instance,
sure.
like, I think to me a problem would be if they bring some villains in and they become very villainous right away. So I'm like, well, then it's not really like pre them being a villain. They're actually already villain. So I think that's going to be kind of a fine line to tread.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I think, they should kind of look at the comics and what we've seen in all the forms of media for Batman and, hey, what hasn't been shown before? Like, what don't we know about Mr. Freeze or something? Maybe they won't go that route, but things like that, because that's where they have a way to tell interesting stories and don't feel like they're just retreading stuff we already know.
Yeah, I'm a little bit hopeful because they're introducing this character of Fish Mooney, and Fish Mooney played by Jada Pinkett Smith. And I've heard good reviews about her character from like the people at Comic-Con that saw the pilot episode already.
Okay.
But I think it's smart of them to introduce Fish Mooney because first of all, it's a new character, so that's kind of nice that they can put their print, sort of in the Batman universe.
Right.
But I think it's also good because she is a full villain right away, and so that might take some pressure off the other pre-villains.
Right.
They might be able to handle my concern. Like they might be able to have her fill the role of being the villain from week to week, and then that'll allow room to grow for the villains that we all know from the comics.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my only concern with the Fish Mooney thing is that there's like tons of characters from years and years of Batman to pick and choose from. And if you're going to throw something original in, it just better be really cool and work well with the rest of the cast.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it seems like the Comic-Con people do think they're hitting a good tone with her. And as long as they don't go over the top, I mean, if she's kind of like the only new character, and then other characters they draw from the comics, like Harvey Bullock, that's a nice one they are bringing from the comics rather than
Yes,
trying
I
to
agree.
invent. Yeah, so that's nice. So if Fish Mooney's kind of like the only main original character, I think that's a nice, I think that's a nice balance. I'm also excited about how they are going to be handling the action. They said they're going to try to do a lot of the effects in camera, and I think that's going to bring a nice realism to the action, which I think will look better for a TV budget. They aren't going to have a full blockbuster budget, so I think it's better to go with kind of more gritty, realistic, in-camera type effects.
For sure. I totally agree with that as well.
Yeah, if people haven't seen the 21-minute kind of promo video that Fox put out there, it has some really nice behind-the-scenes stuff and some interviews with the producers. And I get a good feel from them about how they talk about how they're approaching it. And what do you think of like the design that you've seen so far, like the look of Gotham or just the sort of the look of the series from what you can tell?
Well, when I heard that they were recording it or filming it, I mean, in New York, that really gives it a certain like more weight to it, and I think that's cool, and makes it feel different than other Batman projects, because the Nolan films were filmed in Chicago and Pittsburgh and stuff like that. So really looking forward to that. I like the way they're adding stuff digitally to make it look like Gotham more. So
Yeah.
that's got promise for me. But like a lot of it is like I got to see that first episode. It's all about the tone, and see how it works with the city itself. But it does sound like they're making the city itself part of the story, like isn't a character, and that's something that sounds really good.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking the city of Gotham very seriously, which I agree is a good sign. And yeah, I'm going to be excited to see the first episode to see how they strike that tone. I will also say I'm excited to see the relationship between Alfred and the young Bruce, because Alfred's relationship with him is always such a good part when he's adult Bruce, but I think this will be cool to see him with the kid.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it's a good choice. The actor playing Alfred, he's been in a lot of movies and stuff. I think he's kind of an interesting choice.
I think it'll be cool too if it's the story of James Gordon. I think it'll really be the story of a police officer trying to handle Gotham, and I think pretty much having his hands full. um, and so I think hopefully it'll be the story of kind of James Gordon realizing that the typical law enforcement and this typical approach is actually not enough to handle Gotham, because Gotham has such an underbelly and such a crime sort of flow to it that I think it'll be James Gordon realizing, wow, we really need somebody else to help us to kind of fill a different role in the crime fighting, and that'll eventually be Batman, which I think will do a nice job explaining why James Gordon actually has some respect for Batman and works with him, whereas other, people in authority often want to take Batman down, or they say, oh,
Right.
he's a vigilante, we have to stop him, where James
Yeah.
Gordon kind of realizes, no, we need to work with Batman. So I think this might kind of be the story of James Gordon having his hands full with the
Yeah,
Gotham crime.
I could see that for sure.
So I mean, as you can tell, we both think it has a lot of potential. Anything else that you think maybe is risky, or is maybe something that they might get wrong and might kind of tarnish the show?
Well, honestly, if you're a Batman fan, it's been like, a wealth of riches for the last 10 years. I mean, like between the cartoons and the
The
animated
games
movies and the Nolan films,
and the
that
games too, the
the
Arkham
games
games.
too, yeah, exactly. And the
Yeah.
comics. The bar is set extremely high. I think if this show was coming out in a period more like before these movies or years and years after, the level of scrutiny we're going to look at them won't be so high, especially to come after Arrow and things like that. Because with shows like Arrow, people, except for comic people, don't know who the heck Green Arrow was. So you
Yeah.
could do a lot with it. With Batman, you've got to get it right. And I hope they don't try and make it too much like a light version of the Nolan films, because it just won't work. Like, it's got to be something different that has some of that similar feel, but on, like you said, a TV budget can't do that. So maybe they're being smart about it and saying, what didn't they show in the movies? That's what we want to do. Because I think
Yeah.
that's the way they should be going with it.
Right, and I think if Fish Mooney rocks it, if Penguin is really interesting, and if Ben McKenzie can really bring depth to James Gordon, I think it could really work. So,
Yeah, me too. That's one of my only reservations, is that guy as does not seem like James Gordon to me. I don't know if maybe it's just because he doesn't have the trademark stash or glasses yet, but I'm sure it's coming at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just odd seeing, like, I recognize that guy from a lot of TV shows and things like that. So, but I'm
Nice.
really wanting to give him the college try, and see how he does.
Yep. So Gotham coming right around the corner, September 22nd on Fox. Thanks, Jason, for talking about it with me.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime, Sam.